Well, hello and welcome to the studios of Bedford Community Television. My name is Ray Chadwick and I'm your host for this issue of Candidates Corner. This series of shows is put on by Bedford Community Television in order to give voters a chance to meet the candidates that they'll see on the ballot on November 6th. And on that ballot, you will find running again for his second term our current Governor, Chris Sununu. We have him here today. Governor, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on.
Great to have you here.
Great to be here.
Well, you're sort of on a roll. You know, the economy is rip-roaring. Unemployment is down. Wages are up because people have to compete for workers, which is sort of the wonderful way markets work.
The market is working.
Tell me a bit. You know, you're sort of an engineering guy, so you're a problem-solving guy. Tell me how you set these things up to get done during your first term.
I mean, we came out with a very ambitious agenda, right? Yep. And you know, one of my strategies was the fact that, you know, you have to get elected every 2 years here. And I think traditionally in the past, governors would think, well, I got to start running again. We had a very different approach. We said, well, we're going to throw politics aside and just get stuff done. Whatever we have to do to get things done, because I just saw so much potential, untapped potential, if you will, with what was happening and was not happening within the state. I'm a big believer that you focus on the economy, you focus on business, you focus on creating opportunity for individuals, because when you do that, you can cut taxes, which we did, you can go through regulatory reform, which we did, you can focus on businesses in a way that actually provides the opportunity for more business to come in, unemployment goes down, we have more people working than ever before, we have more available jobs and opportunity than ever before, and this creates opportunity at the state level. And with that, you can focus on some of the priorities we needed to tackle, which were things like DCYF, which was a disaster, mental health, which was a major crisis, the opioid crisis. And then you really think long term, right? You try to create public-private partnerships that will be lasting, not just in 2-year cycles, but 5 and 10 years down the road. If you have extra money, which we do have right now, we have a lot of surplus funds because we've been so successful. You don't create bigger government. You invest in assets. You invest in roads and bridges and safer schools. Right. You know, things that, again, that offset the property tax base at the local level. We've sent $65 million back to every city in town to offset our higher property taxes.
Including Bedford.
Including Bedford. Right. Bedford got a couple nice checks. Right. We were able to get things like full-day kindergarten done, which we did it without any taxpayer dollars, right? They got attached to Keno, so no taxpayer dollars go into that, yet it still provides full-day kindergarten opportunity for any city in town who wants to take it up now. And the state is finally providing their fair share. So by, again, thinking a little creatively, doing it a little differently, we've really been able to create a lot of opportunity at the state level, and it works. I mean, the formula really does work. And so again, you got to run eventually. So eventually,
so here you are.
We're out there. We're out there with the signs and the door-to-door and the phone calls, and we're really pushing hard. Take nothing for granted. Poll numbers are good and all that, but at the end of the day, we got to make sure everyone comes out to vote. You can't take anything for granted, especially now. The economy's good, opportunities are there. We've worked very hard for our successes, and as a team, not just myself, Republicans in the House, Republicans in the Senate, the Republican Executive Council, who's allowed us to put in good commissioners and managers and judges. These this is really a successful team. Right. And so we want folks to not just vote for myself, but all the way down the ballot, making sure we put the team back together.
You know, it's interesting. You mentioned the fact, okay, we got lots of money, but we're not putting it back into government. And it occurs to me that is a fundamental difference between the way the two major parties, Democrats and Republicans, look at things. Democrats look at government as the solution. So if there were more money, they'd be expanding something. We'll do more for you here. Republicans seem to look at government as a way to enable people to make choices and businesses to make choices, and therefore the consequence of that is the economy grows, things get better, et cetera, et cetera. And your opponent in this election is someone, I'm sure she would say, oh, I would never give you an income tax, but she has been behind.
Well, she gave us over 60 other taxes and fees.
I was reading up on it the other day, and she was an advocate for, okay, we are going to regulate and tax you if you have a fiberglass kayak, right?
Everything
if you rent a campsite at one of our state parks. So I think, to me, these choices are very clear. You can either stick with a team, and actually that's a team here, and a Republican team in Washington that is generated growing economies, lower unemployment,
It's working.
more freedom. And it's working.
It really
so
is.
it's really not the time to change direction
No, I mean,
at
it's
all.
just the opposite. Look, I don't want to just focus on my opponent, but the Democrats get in there and they say, well, we're not for an income tax or sales tax either. Yes, but then you stick it with not just one or two, but over 50 other taxes and fees.
Little cuts here and there.
Everywhere else.
Right.
So they stick it to you everywhere else. That is not true to the spirit of a low tax environment. That is not true to the spirit of believing in the individual and allowing communities drive their own solutions. When you do that, when you do it the right way, that's why not only are we pretty good, we've really become the gold standard for for businesses to flood in here. We just heard last night Manchester approved BAE's proposal. They could have gone anywhere. Yeah,
right.
they were going to go could have gone anywhere in the country. But we were able to put a team together from the state level with the city, with them individually, craft a solution that's specifically tailored to them, knowing that they have access, they have the ability to really have a say in their own destiny. That's what businesses want, and they want to be able to plan and budget with a government, with entities that ultimately could regulate them for the long term. But when you have folks in there and say, well, we need more money, we're just going to tax you. By the way, we don't need more money right now. We're managing very, very well. We have a surplus. That's your money. It's not Concord's money. It's your money. That's why we return it back to cities and towns. We're trying to create a new precedent where when you have extra money, again, if there's key priorities you got to go after, that's fine. But when Concord has extra money, it's not just the opportunity to increase government. You invest in the local economies, you invest in local assets and infrastructure, and ultimately, if the country does hit a recession, and we may down the road, of course, we all know that, my job is to make sure we have a little blip. You know what? We've really invested in the long term. We've created an infrastructure that is second to none. So we are continue to drive businesses out of Massachusetts. We continue to drive workforce into the state out of places like Connecticut and New York that frankly just have Democrat leadership that keep taking them in the wrong direction. I mean, every time they sign a bill down there, I call it the New Hampshire Jobs Act, right? Because it's driving more businesses and more employees up into New Hampshire. So we have to take advantage of that, not follow in their footsteps, really go in the opposite direction that sets ourselves apart. The model works. We've been very successful with it. And again, I don't just think it's myself. It's everybody. The Republican leadership in the State House really deserves a lot of the credit in getting it done, and we need everybody to come out and vote and support that.
That's right. Yeah, fundamentally, if you take money from people, that means there's less for them to spend, less opportunities for them, less choices for them.
Right.
So I think it's very clear. If you want choice for people, elect Republicans.
Right.
I mean, they've got the ideas.
It's not even close. It's
no
actually
argument.
a very easy election. I mean, it really is. Look, if there are folks out there that believe it's okay to tax, it's okay to grow government, and they believe government is the solution, that's their opinion. That's fine.
Yeah.
I fundamentally disagree, and I think the model has failed.
Right.
I mean, look back when we hit tough times, what happened? The state increased every tax you could imagine. They left with nearly $1 billion deficit. It didn't work. It was a failed system, right? We do just the opposite, and the results speak for themselves. But you have to invest into that. You have to get your right leadership, both at the state and the local level, that supports those fundamentals to allow those opportunities to keep coming, not to the government, but to the individual, to your family, your business, your household, your kids, whatever it is. It's all about the individual. That's the fundamental change we're bringing to the state.
This is true not just in the state, but this is true in the country. Because if you look at the economy there and the tax cuts that were provided through, again, the Republican legislature, Republican president, that's what's growing the economy. More money in people's pockets, they'll spend it. More jobs, et cetera, et cetera, et
Look,
cetera.
there's no
It's
doubt
the right way to go.
the tax cuts worked. I mean, the money, it's a huge reason why we have a lot of the investment into New Hampshire that we do. We have international companies that are investing literally hundreds of millions of dollars into New Hampshire, and they've been very direct. It's because of the tax cuts out of Washington. It really worked. Now, does that mean that's going to be an upward trajectory forever? No, of course not. No. So you have to save. You have to plan for the long term. You have to be conservative even in the good times. But at the same time, you get rid of the regulation. You continually work on making your environment for businesses and workers more flexible, and you let the markets drive forward. The fact that we now have a higher, on a household basis, our average income in New Hampshire has now surpassed Massachusetts. We make more money here on a household basis than they do even in Massachusetts. So we're creating opportunity. The lowest poverty level in the country, 20,000 available jobs, more people working than ever before, higher wages, higher wage growth than anywhere else in the Northeast. This is really driving forward. Everybody gets it. I really believe that. but we need them there in November. We need, the husbands and the spouses and your kids and your dogs and your cats. I don't care who. Bring them all out to vote. But we really need folks. We worked hard for this. It wasn't easy.
Only the registered voters, of course. And somebody's going to
As
say,
long as
oh,
they're
you want cats to vote.
But look, we've been very successful, and we just don't want people to take that for granted. And I give a lot of credit to everyone we've been able to work with, good leadership all across Concord in terms of creating this environment. It's hard. It's a lot of work. It's hard work. We worked hard for the credit. I guess November's when we hopefully go out and earn it and earn those votes and make sure people understand that we've tried to create those successes not for Concord, but for the families and the communities of the state.
Right. Now, speaking of taxes, you guys have actually, you and the legislature have actually reduced taxes on electricity. People complain about electricity rates.
The electricity
You've been
consumption
chopping away
tax,
at that too.
Yeah, we got rid of that.
Yeah,
which was great.
Let's talk about regulations. I just want to, because often I hear Republicans, okay, we're going to cut regulations, and somebody will come back, oh, they want dirty water and they want dirty air. Not true. We are talking about things like, why should you have to, for example, get a license to have a kayak?
Right.
No, I mean, literally, that's the kind
stuff.
of things. And if you go across the growth of government and the number of things that impede you in your daily life, somebody have hypothesized that you can't get through a day without violating probably 10 different regulations.
Right.
So
regulatory reform was a big step. I mean, that's one of the reasons why I ran for governor in the first place.
Right.
I was running my own business. We were great stewards, not just of the environment, but of labor law. We had resources. We were doing very well, but it was still a very over-regulated environment. And I thought, boy, if a business like mine with resources is having trouble struggling through this regulatory environment, what do the little guys do? What does a flower shop do or an independent contractor do? They don't have those resources to figure out this incredibly complex environment. So the first thing we did is in August 2017, we took 1,600 rules and regulations. They were obsolete. They were duplicative. We just wrote them right off the books. I signed an executive order. That was phase one. Phase two was the most comprehensive regulatory reform bill the state has ever had. In over 30 years since we really rebuilt government back in the 80s, hadn't done anything like this. So we brought stakeholders in, had the public meetings, brought everybody to the table and said, okay, what can we do simply to make your lives easier? Right. Now, it's not about getting rid of environmental regulations and things like that. I'm an environmental engineer. I take the stewardship of the environment very, very seriously. If anything, we really clamped down and made sure that we're being proactive on things like clean drinking water and clean drinking water infrastructure, where we're making huge investments now. That's been a top priority of ours. But just to get the bureaucracy out of people's lives so they can live their lives, so they can, my job is to make sure we create as much opportunity as possible and get out of the way. And we're there for when you need help. We're there for when the system is falling apart. When the system doesn't work for some reason, let us know. And then we'll go in there and help redesign, re-engineer, if you will, to simply get a better result. And then we let everyone kind of live their lives, that live free or die spirit, if you will, community-driven, individual-focused. So the regulatory reform aspects have been very successful. The next phase we want to undertake in the next term, we've already started a lot of it now, is the customer service aspect of regulatory reform. So in other words, how do we make ourselves more accessible to the individual? So when you go on a website or you call a phone number or you need help in some way, because that does happen, of course, we're making ourselves available with easy access information, again, so we can get you what you need and you can get on with your life, as opposed to creating these obsolete and outdated websites, siloed information. This department is over here, that department's over there. They're not talking to each other. We're really creating all of that integration now, all for one purpose, getting the individual, the folks outside of Concord especially, just better access to information so they can get the help they need and move on.
And along the way, sort of cleaning up some of these agencies that actually supplant their budget by fines, fees, and things. So they have an incentive to go around and find problems, even if they're minuscule problems.
That's right. So, we have a labor department is a great example. We have a new commissioner of labor that has come in, Ken Merrifield, doing a great job. For years, labor, I think a lot of folks in business saw labor as a punitive department. If someone from the Department of Labor knocked on the door,
it's a bad thing.
Yeah, but no, we're taking a very different approach now. We're trying to be very customer service friendly, knock on the door and say, how can we help? Now, of course, there's going to be bad actors out there, and we have to make sure people are following the labor laws and not abusing issues of labor with their employees. But also, at the same time, there's no reason we can't be knocking on those doors and saying, What can we do to help? Is it working for you? What is that grant application that took 45 pages and 3 lawyers to fill out? You know, we have opportunity at the state. Why are we creating barriers that make it so hard for people to interact? Are you getting the services that you need in an easy, simple way? So we have departments that are finally really reaching out. Department of Environmental Services is another great example. Bob Scott, the new commissioner there, he and his team, I think, are doing a great job trying to change the culture a little bit and really drive forward to be more proactive, more of a partner in terms of finding solutions for whether it's a homeowner or a business. Again, just to make sure that everyone's following the rules, abiding by the guidelines, providing flexibility where necessary, and just simply being reasonable, being a partner in the solutions that we're trying to provide.
Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about Washington. We've got
it's a circus.
Well, that's certainly. I won't even get into that whole piece. What I was more interested in talking about is I look across at the Republican Governors Association, the states where Republican governors are, which is close to 35 if I remember correctly. Those are the states where the economy is developing, regulations are reducing. Surprise, surprise, if you give people more freedom from government, they will excel. Right. This is fundamentally life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
Those are real competitors,
Yeah, exactly. So, but part of what's necessary to complete the task you've got for the state is someone in Washington who can be your advocate.
Right.
And we currently, I would suggest, have 0 of 4 people in Washington that are advocates for your success.
Oh gosh, no. No, you're absolutely right. Look, I get on a plane when we need something. I have no problem getting on a plane, flying to Washington, and talking to who we need to talk to get something done. I was down with Secretary DeVos at Education. I was down with Secretary Chow at Transportation. I've sat with whether it's the folks at EPA or the folks at Interior. You know, they were talking about drilling for oil offshore of New Hampshire. You know, I didn't pick up the phone. I got on a plane and I went down and I talked to Secretary Zinke, and we got assurances that that is not going to happen here. But we do it by building relationships.
Right.
It isn't emails and phone calls and texts. It's really getting on the plane and flying down there and advocating for ourselves. You know, some states have lobbyists that advocate on their behalf. I don't believe in that. I really believe in being able to look across the table from someone, look them in the eye, establish a relationship, sometimes on a first-name basis, and really make sure that New Hampshire's getting the attention that we deserve. It's how we were so successful with the DD community. We got some more money in education for the DD community. It's how we got flexibility in Medicaid. It's how we've gotten our work requirements.
True.
It's how we're really tackling and really being put to the forefront of opportunity when it comes to tackling the opioid crisis with our new hub and spoke model. They believe in us. We've been able to build that relationship, and they're making the investment in New Hampshire. And it's a very exciting time in terms of finally being able to really tackle an issue, not with just more money, the same way.
Sure.
There is more money, to be sure, but in a whole new structure, a whole new infrastructure, if you will, that provides real quality of care, wraparound services to individuals all across the state, not just in Manchester or Nashua, but really no matter where you live, to have the access to a doorway to folks that can really get you the full services, help you need in your community. That's an opportunity we just have never had here, and it's aggressive. We're being, you know, we've spent a lot of time rebuilding this infrastructure. The dollars are already coming out. Starting this January, we'll start building that model for really addressing the opioid crisis. But again, it's because we built relationships. We went down to Washington, established, advocated on our own behalf, and we got results for the people in New Hampshire. I'm very proud of that.
Yeah, well, you should be. And where I was going with this, though, that would be a heck of a lot easier to do if you actually had 2 congressmen who
or women.
could support
That's fine
it.
too.
Well, there's only on our side 2 congressmen, but Eddie Edwards and Steve Negron.
Yeah, great candidates.
Yeah,
boy, great candidates.
Yeah.
2 individuals that they get it. They believe in New Hampshire. They believe in people. It's not about institutions. It's not about government. It's not about just driving more money. It's really believing in the individual. And I think Eddie and Steve Negron have just done a tremendous job of highlighting that. I think they're going to be very successful. If we get that vote out, we get the supporters out that are there, there's no doubt they're going to be successful. And we'll have those advocates. Not that just read the Democrat playbook out of Washington and read those same talking points over and over and over again.
Yeah.
I mean, they're not even creative about their talking points on the Democrat side because they all read the same ones, right? At least mix it up. At least try to fool us, right? I mean, give me a break. It's ridiculous. So,
well,
look,
they count on people not paying attention, in my opinion.
People are paying attention.
But people
really
are, because they are actually watching, you know, success.
Yeah.
Because if you step back, I made the comment, life, liberty, the pursuit of happiness. What that means is the individual. Less government, less taking money out of your pocket, so you can invest it.
Right.
You know, you want to buy a new car, you want to do this, you want to put your kids through college, you want to put yourself through college. When government takes money from you, it's
Right.
closing in your options. It's
Right.
curtailing your growth and opportunity. And I think that is the fundamental question here if you look at the two parties. I mean, it's not a question of popular candidates here in Bedford or statewide or whatever. It's a question of what ideas are they promoting and what agenda is their party promoting.
Right.
So I think people need to get out to that. Let me talk about something else because I am still fascinated by this. I know you're solving all these state problems, and it was mind-boggling to me, frankly, when I realized that you had solved a consumer problem at the local supermarket.
Oh, yes.
This is the one where when
Market basket.
when they fold over, you know, your whatever
The
deli
deli
meat,
meat problem.
and
The
they put a
crisis.
sticker on
The
it.
hidden crisis of New
you
Hampshire.
try to pull it apart, and the bag comes apart.
Yeah.
Now you can't keep it fresh.
Yeah.
How did you get into that?
Well, it was that boy. That was one of
was
those amazing things
great.
you don't realize. Kevin Smith, who was a town manager of Londonderry, a
I know
great
Kevin.
friend,
Right.
texted something once, tweeted something out. Hey, is anyone else frustrated by this? Because, and I said yes. I do a lot of the grocery shopping in our family. I love doing grocery shopping. It's kind of going to Market Basket on my way home late at night is one way I kind of decompress.
Well, it's a
But
way
yes.
to meet people and see what average individuals in New Hampshire
They're
think,
talking
you know?
about. Oh, people have no problem coming up and telling you what they think, which I think is
because you're
really great.
approachable, and that's the way to
Yeah,
do
it's
it.
great.
Yeah.
But yes, I'd get my American cheese and then fold the little plastic bag over and then put the sticker across the top in such a way that you had to rip the sticker and ultimately probably the bag in terms of reopening the package when
Not
you got
just
home.
probably.
It happened all
Always.
the time. So I thought,
Always
oh my
in
God,
my case.
Kevin Smith, my friend, is the other weirdo out there other than myself who thought that this was a big problem. Holy smokes. I put that out and just put it back to Kevin 50,000 people later.
Yeah, I know.
Retweeting that and Facebooking it. I couldn't believe it. And so he sent something to me and said, hey, I was at my supermarket. Looks like they changed their system. I went to my supermarket. Sure enough, they had put the label on the side, just like I liked it. And I just said, hey, thank you, Market Basket. Love your employees. It's so great that they did this. And again, the tens of thousands of people that commented that said, wow, we were all frustrated too.
Yeah.
So I guess you never know what people are struggling with. It's the day-to-day stuff. People said, oh, is that really a priority of the state governor? I said, it took a 10-second tweet.
Yeah.
And we solved the problem. So it's not like it was something we really worked hard on, but it's just letting people know. It's just like if someone were to come up to the supermarket and say, I'm having trouble with this, I'm having trouble with that. People want to listen. Businesses
help.
will listen to
Yeah.
you. It's easy.
Yeah, it's just
easy.
a question
But
of
I couldn't
getting-
believe the outpouring of support and my shock and amazement with the number of other people that had dealt with that frustration for years. So
Well, I wasn't surprised because, when that came up, I'm going, geez, that's one of the things I've been grumping about
Yeah.
now for years and years. Why don't you do this? But, never
You know,
thought or had time
if I
to
may,
deal with
the
it.
other issue was, and I'm pushing a little harder to make it a real state issue at this point because I really believe in it strongly, the Save Our Summer initiative that I have, where I believe that everybody should go, all the kids should go back to school after Labor Day. I think it's a fundamental benefit to the economy, to employees, to students, to teachers. This year was a great example. You had 3 days of school before Labor Day for some communities. In 95 degrees, nobody wanted to be there. It's not productive. So really making a push for farmers, for recreational use, for the folks out, the businesses out at the beach, the businesses in the mountain, students that want to keep their summer jobs, that want them to go a little longer. So we're putting a commission together, but the number of people who have come out to support that has been tremendous. We don't want to infringe on local control. The state says how long you go to school. You know how long we have to go to school for? 180 days.
180 days.
Do you know why that is?
Go ahead.
I don't know either. Nobody does. Nobody seems to know.
I thought you had the answer to
No,
that
I don't.
instantly.
But that's my point. Nobody seems to know even why we go to school for 180 days. So I said, well, let's look at it.
We've always done it
We've
that way.
always done it that way. I don't accept that. I don't think anybody should accept those kind of answers. So that's just an example of challenging the system sometimes, just the hows and whys. So we'll put a commission together and look at all of this kind of stuff, see what flexibilities we can create to hopefully drive what I believe is a fundamental difference in the quality of life that we can provide for our families. And teachers love it, students love it, parents love it. Businesses love it. We do want to make sure that we're adhering to and not infringing on too much on the local control aspects. But again, we already say how many days kids can go, how many hours of educational time in the classroom that they need to have. I don't think there's any reason we can't say, and we're just going to start it after Labor Day. People said to me, they go, well, if you start after Labor Day, they'll go to school until July. And I said, well, when did June 15th plus 3 days become July? 40% of our cities and towns already do it.
Yeah.
They're not going to school till July. So
Right.
there's a solution in there somewhere, to be sure. And we just want to challenge ourselves to see what we can do to make it better. It's that simple.
Well, I think it does make sense,
Yeah.
because then you, as you say, save your summer, and most people, summer ends Labor Day weekend.
Yeah.
And they book vacations, they do all kinds of things like that. So I think that makes sense. But once again, it's sort of, to me, it's one of the great things about change agents within organizations, within government, is people will challenge the status quo.
Right.
And say, why are we doing that?
Right.
Doesn't this make more sense? So I'm finding you doing that right and left,
Yeah.
along with appointing a series of Supreme Court justices, well done, who actually believe that, guess what? No, we shouldn't have people from Massachusetts voting in New Hampshire, which is one of my favorite issues.
We had this bizarre loophole. We were the only state with this loophole.
Yeah,
It's
fascinating.
bizarre.
Yeah, and defended to the death by people on the other side.
Well, because it's a loophole. They like their loophole. But look, at the end of the day, I had a lot, as you know, I had a lot of reservations about that originally. And I said, look, I don't like this bill because I'm afraid it could infringe on the constitutional ability for folks to vote. I don't know if it's constitutional.
Yeah.
And so they
Supreme
sent the
Court
bill. And so
clearly agreed that it
it was unanimous.
constitutional.
The three of the 5 Supreme Court justices opined on it. The other 2 decided not to take an opinion. But the 3 that did were unequivocal in saying, absolutely, it's in the state's interest to move forward with the voter bill, because we were so different than Massachusetts or Maine or Vermont or everywhere else. When I went to school in Mass, if you go to school in Massachusetts now, and unless you get a driver's license, you're a full-time resident down there, you can't vote.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just the way it is.
It's the same in every other state.
I don't know why they're not complaining in those states like they complain here.
Of course.
We were the exception, and so now we've kind of put ourselves back on par. And it's all about just having integrity in the system, a system that doesn't confuse people, a system that folks can really rely on. A resident can vote. It's that simple.
Time's been blazing by. We have about 40 seconds
Holy
left.
cow.
So why don't you make your case to the voters why, after all this success, they should put you back?
Well, look, I mean, I know I appreciate you having me on, and I think we've made the case. At the end of the day, there's no issue we haven't tackled. There's no issue we've left on the table, whether they're talking about health care for veterans or Medicaid, school choice, getting full-day kindergarten done, what we've been able to do for the economy and businesses and deregulation. I mean, you put all these pieces of the puzzle together. It's hard work. It is. We've built a great team. And I'm a big believer, not just what we've done, but how we've done it. We've stayed positive. We brought everybody to the table. We've worked across the aisle to get things done when we have to. And it's a recipe of success. I think it's a recipe of success for the rest of the country. I'm very proud of that, very proud of the team we've put together. And when you put all that in the pot, I think and I hope that we've earned folks confidence and support and earned their vote, and reminding folks to come out. You got to come out and vote and support us. Vote on November 6th. Make your voices heard, and let's keep New Hampshire strong.
Good. Nicely done,
Thank you, my
Governor.
friend.
Good job up
this is
there,
always so
and
much fun.
hope you
Thanks.
come back again and get reelected to it. Ladies and gentlemen, make your vote count on November 6th. Have a good day.
Thank you.